spastic pains and how we hide them. I'm not Chris.
And I'm not Karina.
And we're here together with lots of friends.
Yeah, we have mini guests.
Mini guests.
Mini. They're small.
They're small
people.
guests. No, many guests.
We have returning guest Randy.
Yes.
Hi.
And special new guest Yeti. Do you want to go by Yeti or should we use your real name? It's up to you.
I feel like we're just too deep in the whole Yeti aspect of it. So
Yeah.
say that.
The Discord knows you as
They
Yeti
do.
too, so
Exactly.
they're going
Yeah.
to be so excited with this episode.
Mhm.
It's going to be great. But we're all here together for more fun times and
Shenanigans.
We have a really interesting episode coming up, so hang out. And if this is your very first time, welcome to our podcast / YouTube channel about life with chronic and invisible conditions. And that sometimes includes invisible experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to get into today, with a little aspect of some trauma and socialization.
Our go-to, trauma.
Trauma. You know, I don't have a personality. I have trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But where can they find us?
Oh, you can find us on YouTube if you want to watch and listen.
Yes.
You can find us on Spotify, Amazon, and Audible if you want to just listen. And also, you can go to our Patreon and join up, and you will get full episodes
Yes.
and shorts and all sorts of wonderful things.
Yes. It's brand new.
It
We're
is.
launching it as of today. We just pressed the button like an hour ago. It's very exciting. So yeah, hang out. See what you can see.
Mm-hmm.
It gets crazy from here. But first, it is time for the weekly recap.
Check in.
Check in. Yeah, I don't know. I had a week.
I'll go first. Mine's easy.
Go for it.
I had a week. That was it. I had a week. It's like everyone else. Time passed.
It occurred.
I spent the week doing movies with my daughter.
Yes.
Just belligerent movie watcher now.
Mm-hmm.
She's been watching horror films with me and tearing them apart and being just insane, and she loves it.
Bad horror films.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Like 47 Meters Down, Uncaged, which had blind sharks in it.
Blind sharks.
Yeah, they were in a
Great.
Mayan ruin under the water
Oh.
exploring, and there were blind sharks everywhere. It was great. I hated it.
We love to hate it.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
It was wonderful.
The draw of
We
that
saw The
kind of-
Thing. We have to watch the original one
Thing is
next
good.
because she's really wanting to see it. We just
I
can't
like
find
the
it.
thing. That one was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then Scream and so on. So yeah, we've been doing lots of movie watching and spending time with the kids, like I do.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, there are so many new movies coming out this year. It's insane.
Oh my god, I know.
I always keep waiting for like a really good horror. I'm like, give me horror.
I think they're coming out with like The Nun Part 2 this year, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh.
Something like
That
that.
should be pretty good.
Yeah.
But no, this year, great year for movies, 100%.
Good.
Heck yeah.
I'll be watching out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess I could go next. My week was a week. It was a very long week. It had like 4 Fridays in a row.
Dang.
It was a very long week.
I hate that.
It was just like one thing after another, after another, after another. It
Yeah.
wasn't like super dramatic or anything, but it was just long. It was really, really long.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I have horrible, awful face pain that I don't know what that's all about, but I hate it. I keep like going back and forth between it's a tooth or it's like
Oh yeah. Yeah.
muscular or just nerve pain. I don't know. But it's like from the top of my cheekbone all the way down through the bottom of my jaw to my chin
Yep.
and then across the top of my face. So it's annoying. My top jaw, not
Very.
the top of my face.
I'm feeling it too.
I know. I gave him sympathetic nerve pain. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know.
She
I
did.
almost called it nerf pain because we've been
Nerf.
nerfed.
Gotcha.
Well,
Well done.
I need
Nerfed
a
at
nap.
birth.
That's mean and true.
Uh,
But yeah. Yeti, Randy,
Oh man, I did not come prepared for this.
how was your week?
It was a week.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Your children did a prank.
Oh, that they did.
You got pranked?
I
You got
did.
pranked
I got
again.
pranked.
So last year, what did they do?
So last year they sticky noted my truck.
Yeah.
The whole truck.
The whole truck, and it was amazing. This year, they respected that I have a new car that probably did not need to be tie-dyed through sticky notes.
Yeah.
And decided to sticky note my entire room.
Yep.
Wow.
Like wallpaper.
Yeah, they even took posters off of the wall to sticky note underneath them. They sticky noted all of my
Damn.
computers. They sticky noted the desks. They said it was something like
Holy
30
shit.
boxes of sticky notes.
Oh my God.
That reminds me of the episode of The Office where he like wraps the whole
Oh.
office.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely the event of the week.
Yeah.
Senior
Dang.
pranks for the win.
Yep.
That's impressive. That takes dedication.
Right?
Mm.
And
Honestly?
adoration.
Mm-hmm.
So, quick little story. I've actually pulled a prank on one of my teachers before. And so what me and a couple of my friends did, we went into school really early
Mm-hmm.
and we bought like, I believe it was like 8 tarps, right? And we, oh my God. And now thinking about it, we're such douchebags for this, bro. Honestly, like we're so mean. So we took the tarps and we hung them with a rope above the classroom, right? So we like attached all the tarps together.
Mm-hmm.
And we filled all the tarps to make like this little holding place, and we filled it all with Orbeez, right? Orbeez and water.
Oh my
mind you.
God.
Yeah. So, and then, so it was about like maybe I want to say like 10,000 Orbeez just hanging
God.
above a classroom.
Oh
So-
no.
Yeah. Geometry class was canceled for that day.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's got to be Orbeez. Orbeez are the go-to.
Right? So good. How was your week, Yeti?
Honestly, it was pretty simple. I mean, I didn't really do anything too exciting. Oh, that's not true. Took a final exam, passed it with a 96 for algebra.
Nice.
I'm in
Ooh.
college. But yeah, mostly just working every single day, and then after I get off of work, I do a bunch of schoolwork, and then after schoolwork, I take a shower and go to bed because it's normally 10 o'clock by then.
Yeah.
Fair.
So yeah, that was my. And then wait, I also went to the gym.
Good
Nice.
job.
Yeah, so
We've
that
not
was
done
that was my week for the most part.
nice. Well, good. Is everybody settled?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to kind of backstory this. We were talking to Yeti this morning in our live, and it was perfect because what did you say, Yeti? You were like, you should tell me what the topic is ahead of time,
Yeah.
so I know what it is, and I'm like,
Oh
ready,
yeah,
so that I could do one. And we were
Yeah.
like, we don't usually know. Usually we just are like having a conversation. We're like, ooh, I like this, and
Yeah.
we do it. And then lo and behold, later on in the conversation,
Yep.
Yeti brought us this amazing topic.
Well, we
And
just
then
started having
agreed-
the conversation.
Yeah, and then agreed to stay so we could do the episode. And then the stars aligned, and my husband was bored. And so now he's here to hang out with us.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
That's a W for us.
Right? Haha, your boredom. So yeah, I'm going to I don't know, who wants to kind of sum this one up?
Yeti? I mean, it's your baby.
Okay. So when we were talking about when we were talking in the live, sorry, we were talking about different topics to go over, and the gears in my head, started turning as any rational person would. And I was thinking, like, how, like, if you've grown up around like a family who doesn't really necessarily share the same, what's the word I'm looking, like mental and physical deficiencies that you do.
Yeah.
And if you do reach out to them and you get denied of that interaction or that help, or if you don't reach out to them, how does that then later affect your mental like manifestation over time? And how did that affect the way that your life turned out today? Was the topic that I had brought up in discussion.
Mhm.
And we have many different views and opinions and like different experiences, obviously, on it. Like, for example, yesterday found out I had ADHD, so yippee for me. Um, you know, self-determined.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, not my girlfriend telling me to calm down 30 times, no big deal. Um, or yelling at 60 employees all at once, no big deal. So yeah, no, there's my opinion on it, my point of view, and then there's Chris's, and then there's Karina's. I believe I'm pronouncing your name right correctly,
Yes.
Karina. Okay.
Yep, Karina.
So yeah, we got many different points of views on it, and that's what we're gonna talk about today. So yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yes. So talking about kind of how upbringing impacts your life later on. This is something that's like Randy and I are very passionate about because we see it a lot in our students because both of us work serious emotional disabilities. And those are our favorite ones to work with as far as I'm concerned. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're the best kids. Oh my God. But we wind up with these like serious emotional disabilities. And it's hard to pinpoint, but usually there's a lot of pre-experience
Yeah.
that culminates in that disability. Like Yeti, you were talking about, what was it? Winding up with like anger issues
Yeah.
later in life. So
Yes.
having those formative lessons taught in which you realize you can't expect to have help from other people or help or validation, or like we protect ourselves when we're not reaching out, but usually it comes from that, like there's a formative lesson that teaches that you can't expect real help, you will be invalidated, and you will be told to suck it up and move on.
Yep.
Which is not what any of us want. That's devastating to our like emotional well-being, and so we protect ourselves from it. Oh my God, there's so many threads. I'm like trying so hard to stay on one track, and I've lost it now.
Yeah, no, I am doing the same thing. I really don't know where to attack this angle from because there's so many different angles to attack it from.
I remember. So you were saying that like that leads to anger issues later in life. And that's really what we see with our serious emotional disability kids. So sometimes we see like severe anxiety, but usually what we're seeing is like these major angry outbursts that sometimes start as early as like elementary school. But anger is the greatest smokescreen, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It is the most often used and the most often like it's our wall to deter other people, right?
Yeah.
We're building this safe place through the enforcement of our like personal space.
And well, like you said,
space.
It's a safe emotion.
Yeah.
Because, you can be, as a man especially, you can be angry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, you're being a dude. That's
Right.
what's expected. Just be angry.
Right. Because other emotions aren't safe.
Right.
They will be invalidated. So they kind of twist and come out like deformed as anger.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll let Randy talk on this a little bit because I know you see many more kids than I see. So I have a group, but it's a lot smaller than like your caseload or your typical high school setting.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm far from a typical high school setting myself. I mean, we've only got 285 kids,
Mm-hmm.
and 34 of them are mine. So
Wow.
That's a lot.
It's a big crew, but no, a lot of the anger that I see, I think it's kind of a smokescreen, like you were saying. It's not the real emotion. It's the safe emotion.
Mm-hmm.
They know what to expect out of a reaction to anger. They know that's it.
It almost gives them power.
Yeah,
or an illusion of power.
Well, it is power. It's power to understand the reaction. Mm-hmm. They know what reaction they're going to get when they present angry,
mm-hmm.
but they're so well trained in that they don't know the reaction that they'll get. Is it a safe reaction if they were to display like this is actually anxiety
mm-hmm.
or something along
or
those
sadness or disappointment or
Oh,
I'd
that'd be
like to touch
crushing.
on that just a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, what you guys are saying, it's kind of like the only reaction that we think we're gonna get a response from, that we know we're gonna get a response from. So like it's for example, if like let's just use the Roman and the Greeks for example. Like if Greece didn't have walls around their country, you know, the Romans would just think, oh, we can invade, right? But it's like, oh, we built these huge walls around the city, and then line up archers and catapults around the tops, and have thousands of guards at the bottom. That as like an act of intimidation or fear.
Yeah.
You get a reaction as if the two leaders of Greece and Rome were to sit down and have a conversation, then they'd be like, "Oh no, why are we talking about this? Let's just fight like men.
Right.
Like let's pull out our swords and draw blood." It'd be like it's just like, okay, yeah, no, nobody's gonna listen to me when I'm trying to have a rational conversation with you, and so I'm gonna make you be afraid of me, or I'm gonna piss you off,
Mhm.
like in a sense, and that's like like the only way we see to get a response from somebody or to handle something, because we're told like, oh, you're a man, like you're not allowed to be upset or have an opinion on something, just suck it up and move on,
Right.
like, or suck it up, move on, punch it out, wrestle, do what you got to do, get over it, you know what I mean? Like that's just
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that's how we're told to be.
I call those kids like pufferfish
Oh yeah.
or little porcupines.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because porcupines really want you to pet them, but god dang it, are they prickly and sharp. And pufferfish, you're like, okay, you are squishy and soft on the inside, but you got some spikies in there, buddy. But they do, like, it's a defense mechanism more than anything else. And like you were saying, the predictability is huge, because like they don't know. Vulnerability is so unsafe.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting to see, like, when we get kids coming to us from other schools, like they have 12 plus years of and knowing exactly how people are going to react when they display anger, and then when you don't give them that expected response, they're completely
shut
lost.
down. They're panicked.
Yeah.
Because again, it's that, like, there's an aspect of power,
Mm-hmm.
because they know they can make you be afraid, and that gives them the higher ground, right? But then when you don't respond with the appropriate, or like this is the scripted response, they don't know what to do.
Right.
And that makes them feel vulnerable in turn.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's an interesting thing to see, because we're seeing, I don't know, almost by far more like complex cases, I think.
Well, at least since the pandemic, I'd have
Yeah.
to say that we're seeing more and more of that, and I think a lot of that comes just down to the isolation.
Mm-hmm.
They've been in echo chambers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a big one, I think.
Mhm.
Especially if we're talking about like the socialization of boys and men. I have a whole group within my own building who think Andrew Tate is like the boss, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
And her grandfather said something really interesting today.
If it's that he's really into Andrew Tate, I'm going to be really surprised.
No. No, he said that like older men are not mentoring younger men anymore.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that is absolutely true. I mean, not to say that men were handling their emotions appropriately before, but there was definitely more homogeny, I think.
Yeah, there was a structure.
Yeah.
Not a healthy one, but there was structure.
Well, but
Now,
even mentoring is a vulnerability.
Yeah.
Men are socialized to be the strong stoic men, and that you can't show that vulnerability in mentoring somebody and still be that strong stoic man.
Right. No, that makes sense. Yeah. It's a complex thing. Like, there's so many different facets. And like we all said, like, there's so many different roads we could take with this discussion. So I'm struggling to find, because the educator in me wants to talk about our youth now. But then there's this whole other conversation about the wounds that it has left on our current generations, because I think there's a lot to be said there as well. And like discovering your wounds is really the big one, because you were saying you didn't really buckle down and go, oh, I have stuff to deal with until
30.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it showed, like, the way I approached life before was very just underlying anger. It's like what we said at the beginning when we were talking about the podcast. At the beginning of the podcast, we were angrier people than we are now.
Yeah.
And you can kind of feel that when you're watching it. Like, there's
Right.
just a vibe to it. But that's what it was like for in my 20s, because there were 8 years of serious pain and being told that I'm perfectly fine and it's in my head.
Right.
And then a few years of, wow, no one got it right. And now I'm mad about it.
Now I'm mad about it. All of you are failures.
Right. Well, and trying to maintain, like, the facade of being fine.
Yeah.
And
well, because you were expected to be fine.
Exactly.
Right? Like, that's the role that you were supposed to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and it's just now, like I said when we were doing like the talking about meeting our younger selves.
Yeah.
He was just not fun.
I'm
surprised anyone survived being my friend during that
depressed.
age. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
But then having kids like ushered me into a new era.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Yeti.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, because we had talked about this a little on the live. You had at a certain point in your life, growing up there at your family, reached out for that guidance, right? Like you had reached out and tried to find that assistance for like what you were going through, and then you were denied of that assistance.
Yep.
With me, I guess it would like to touch again on like the whole masculinity thing. With me, it was like I grew up with 4 sisters and I was only guy. So it's like, okay, you're the man of the house. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to be strong. You got to be fierce. You got to know problems to solutions. You got to like protect your sisters if they're being like messed with, or like when you walk into a room, you got to demand like you got to demand that attention and that like you know what I'm talking about, like that respect. You
Have
gotta
command of the room.
Yeah. And with me, like over like when I was in middle school, like 5th to 6th grade, probably like one of my worst couple of years, I was bullied, and I really didn't like reach out to anybody about it, and like I just kind of kept it to myself because I'm surrounded by women, and like in my head I'm like, oh, they're men, they don't know what I'm going through, or they don't want to talk about it, or I'm not gonna get the help that I need, or they're not gonna care, they're gonna tell me, oh, just suck it up, be a man, get past the teenage thing. So it's just an interesting idea to think about, like, because now I would say I'm a much happier person and like not as angry and like not as impatient as I was. I'm just interested to finding the turning point and how me not reaching out affected me to turn me into a happy joy care person, whereas Chris was I would say honestly was the rational thing to do, is reach out to somebody and try to find some help. And how he turned out like so different, like how he turned out more closed off after he reached for that help.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
How I turned out more open and like carefree type of vibe. If
That's so interesting.
by keeping it to myself, and like you would think, like, so for example, if you're struggling on a math problem or you don't know how to do your homework, what do you ask for? You ask for a tutor, or you ask for somebody to help you with your homework. And then there's the people who's like, no, I can figure this out, I'm not dumb. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I can figure this out by myself, that are like so like hard-headed and stubborn. But then like you get the people who have a crappy tutor and then they get more confused than they were informed. And then you have the people who end up being confused and not helped at all, or they end up figuring out themselves.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting way to think about first, like, again, Chris reached out for that help, didn't receive it. I didn't reach out for the help because I didn't think I was going to get it. And I turned out carefree, open, extrovert, like super loud, super obnoxious, ADHD, and like Chris turned out to be like a little closed off and like more to himself when he reached for that help.
So what you're talking about is like the risk taking factor.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yeah.
like you risked your vulnerability in
Mhm.
asking for help and
Yeah.
had it dashed,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
and then Yeti, you never risked it. Like, you assessed that risk and went, nah. And so you never had that, like, invalidation
Mhm.
wound.
Yes.
So it's so interesting.
Well, and mine's
like-
not just like rejection on a
Mhm.
small scale.
Right. It was like, you're
it was-
crazy, gaslighting,
Well,
insanity.
it was the medical aspect, but then there was the school trauma, like that thing that happened in middle school.
Yeah.
The first response I got to that was, "Don't make jokes. It's not funny." And then I had an hour of just, I couldn't say anything because then no one would believe me at home.
Right.
Like, they're like, "Well, no, you're just making it up." So that was a huge blow to me ever
Right.
talking about it.
Well, and I think you and I have very similar wounds in being invalidated.
Yeah.
And it, at least for me, has like, the wound carries over into me not trusting myself, even though 90% of the time I'm right. I know the answer. I've got it right.
Mhm.
Whatever it is, like, I'm on it, but I don't trust that I know it. And so either I don't take a risk that I should,
Right.
or I waste time having to double check and second guess myself continually.
Mhm.
So that's one way that wound kind of cuts
Yeah.
later in life as well. I mean, there's tons of other ways, but at least for me, like, the second guessing is insane.
Oh, totally.
Because you're like, I don't know if I can trust my own sense of reality.
Oh, yeah. No, we
Am
definitely
I totally like making up everything that I've been through in my entire life?
Yeah, because our realities were shaped
Mhm.
for us
By narrative and not
Yeah.
by fact.
on the daily.
Yeah.
And,
And
we
then reshaped.
we had to go learn what our day was.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, we would wake up and go find
Like, oh,
out
what's the
what.
story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Okay, so that actually makes sense of what I've been thinking as to, like, the way I approach life.
mhm.
Is like, I need to be able to understand the story.
Yeah.
I need to be able to know, like, what the linear plot is here beyond all those, like, dumb details.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I also think that when it comes to men in society, we're just told, like, it's not like, oh, what is the story? It's like, you go and make the story.
Right.
You go and command the story. You go and tell what the story is going to be. Not whether, oh, you're just a character in the story trying to figure things out. No, you have to know. And that's where you're forced into, like, the solution mindset of
Mhm.
like, oh, like, things can't be solved by consoling somebody. You have to find a solution to the problem.
Right.
Like, it's like if Chris was upset, maybe he just needs a hug. No, you need to get your shit together and, like, fix this and fix that, or fix this and fix that, or like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if Randy didn't, like, felt like bad for one of his students, I'd be like, oh, Randy, stop crying. It's just a student that you know about. Stop being a little, like, you know what I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah.
it's like that. And instead of, like, you know what, Randy, I understand. I'm sorry that you're going through that, man. It's tough. Give him
Right.
a hug. Talk about it. No, it's like, oh, here's a solution for this problem. Now stop talking about it. And that's, like, one thing that I struggle with. I know, me personally, is because there's this brick wall in my brain. It's like there's two buckets and there's a brick wall separating the two,
Mhm.
where there's rationalization and emotion.
Oh, right.
And I constantly am dipping my hand in that solution bucket whenever I come to a problem or when I'm coming to a dispute with somebody. Because when you're in a dispute with somebody, my brain goes to debate, debate, debate. I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. They're wrong, they're wrong, they're wrong. When in most cases, it's really not that. It's more so, let's talk about this problem together. Let's look at each other's sides. Let's talk about how we both feel about the situation. When it's like, no, Chris has a solution and I have a solution. I think my solution is more right than Chris's
Yeah.
solution.
Right.
And it's like, and then that within that problem, it just transpires into me and Chris yelling at each other for hours and then turning into a fist fight rather than, you know what, Chris, I see your point of view. You're right. I understand. I'm sorry I upset you about that. That's a good way of thinking about it.
Mhm.
No, Chris, you're dumb. Your solution is wrong. And I think that, like, with men especially, we're just forced into this ideology of, like, you have to know the solution to every problem instead of you can just be in the problem and then move on from it.
There's also a really interesting, like, binary there where it's like things are right or they're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There's a right
Exactly.
way to do things. There's a wrong way to do things. There's like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, and
Yeah,
even
no, I know
like
what you're saying.
even going into like the problem solving, like not every problem has a clear concrete solution.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it turns into either a problem can be solved or a problem can be ignored. There can't be a problem without
Yeah.
a solution.
Absolutely.
that makes absolute sense, because that's where you get that beach ball thing of men packing things away, where you're
Yeah.
like, can't find a solution, stresses me out, don't like the emotions, put it away.
Yeah.
And then you do that again and again
100%.
and again and again until
Until
you're
you just
bursting
explode.
with
Yeah.
what you can only translate to anger.
Well, when you have that
you don't know
many
why.
complex emotions, what other emotion is going to it is going to be able to be released? That's the
Right.
only way of synthesizing all of the more complex emotions underneath that surface.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like another thing that I found that I think that is interesting while being in a relationship for a very long time that I've come to the realization of is like when touching on the woman aspect from my experience, when you talk to a woman about an issue that she's having, a lot of the times I've come to notice that like they don't really want you to throw solutions at them. They just want you to be there with them.
Mhm.
Like they just want you to, be that shoulder to lay on or like a hug. It's not like, oh, you know what, babe, you're crying. Okay, here's how you fix this. Here's how you fix that. It's more like when you do that, it's more like a drill sergeant type of what's the characterization of yourself rather than, oh, he's there for me, he's going to be nice to me, because
Yeah.
she can talk about her emotions and you can find solutions to that problem, but she doesn't want your solution. She just wants you to be there.
Yeah.
Like she just wants you to talk to her, give her a hug, tell her everything's going to be okay, rather than saying, oh, here, fix this, fix that, fix this, fix that. And we have like almost like that drill sergeant mentality to where every problem that we see, it's like, okay, how do I fix this? Like, well, do I need a 3x4? I need a hammer and a nail, fix this problem.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
it's
Well,
just
and I
like you
think
can't always go about everything like that.
Well,
that must build like some kind of resentment too at the end of it all. Right? Like if you perceive that your partner is only bringing you problems to solve, I can't imagine that wouldn't lead to some kind of resentment there. But I was thinking about this, and the only picture in my head is like, so men are like, is there a solution? No, put it away. Whereas women are like, I know there might be a solution, maybe not even right now. There's no solution to be found, but I'm still feeling a thing about the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I've had to learn is sometimes validation is a solution.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Especially with my kids when they're coming to me with these big complex problems, like there's very rarely a solution. And for my male solution based brain, I've had to come to realize that validation is a solution. That's what they're seeking. They're not seeking an actual solution because there isn't one. They just need to know that how they're feeling is okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually said that, Randy, because like it opens people's minds to think like, mate, there's just nothing you can do about it. There's just certain points in time where there's nothing that you can do. There's nothing that you can do.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay to feel upset or angry or sad about that.
Sometimes
But-
things just suck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's okay.
exactly. Yeah.
No, there's this is one of the things that like I have taught kids throughout the years is like your feelings just want to be witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
And empathy is being able to witness the feelings of someone else with them. Right? So offering that empathy is offering that space to be witnessed, which is really interesting because a lot of like people who are socialized men are not offered that space to be witnessed and not offered the space for themselves to even witness their own feelings, because
Yeah.
it's not. And that's the interesting part, is that I feel like feelings are almost inherently like a social help me out here. Like it takes a village, but
Right.
for your own emotional processing. Does that make sense? Like
Yes.
your emotional state, your emotional intelligence inherently requires other people.
Well,
Mhm.
it's learned.
Yeah.
It, emotions as we experience them are socially constructed.
Right.
They have more internal basis, but if you can't learn externally how to recognize these emotions and experience these emotions.
Yeah.
Well,
know,
and I
it's
think
really-
modeling is a big one in there too.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, again, we go back to that like mentoring space, right? Where if you have never witnessed someone model how to handle your emotions, how to feel your emotions, how to validate your emotions, how are you supposed to learn?
Right.
Because it's a skill. Like that's why we call it emotional intelligence, because there's a lot of like learning that must be done in there. There's like some inherent intelligence, but even that you learn. We learn from formative experience and from watching our parents and our grandparents and the people around us.
Yep. As a teenager, I had a lot of mentors that were old ranch hands,
Yeah.
like scruff dudes.
I've never been to a doctor and I've lost my leg twice.
Literally. Not that would have been something that would be said.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about repressed? Like, you don't have emotion.
Right.
You just do the work.
Yeah.
Like, and then like I would talk to their wives who are really like open and trying to like get their husbands to open up.
Yeah.
They're just, it's impossible.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I had a lot of that. And that was the same time that everything was going wrong, like
Yeah.
with middle school and just all sorts of fun things, you know?
Yeah. Where they're like, the bad
So I
thing
just shut
happened.
down.
There's nothing to do about it. Move on.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
wasn't until like I would come back up and visit that I would have talks with Lori about stuff.
Right.
And that's when I would start to kind of unravel and
Yeah.
like identify what was going on.
Uh-huh.
But even then, it wasn't much. I wouldn't get deep into it
Right.
because it was dangerous. It was scary.
Yeah. Because God forbid someone invalidate that again.
Yeah.
Like that, it causes damage. It causes pain, and that pain lives with you and teaches you what is safe and what is not.
Mm-hmm.
And that again goes back into like your risk management and your risk assessment. And if you can't take the risk of feeling your own emotion, how do? And then we wonder why men are like perceived as these angry, like feelingless, cold people, because they've never been allowed to be human beings.
You know, and that's really interesting to think about because, like, for example, Chris again reached out for that help and the assistance, and it essentially was the same outcome as me not reaching out and having that assistance. You know, it was like okay, you're upset, you have problems. Okay, go out and find a way to solve them yourself.
Yeah.
No one's gonna help you. Instead, like when Chris reached out for that assistance, it was like, no, you don't get to have this. You're a man. Like, what are you doing? You're upset.
You don't get to have the experience of the pain.
Yeah.
Like it's not real because
Yeah,
you're a
but-
man.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I find it. I just can't. I guess something that I'll just like never understand. Not to say like there's anything wrong with you, Chris, but
No.
like it's just interesting to me because like you and I, like we're good friends. Like we've known each other for quite a bit now. And it's just interesting to see, like, I can tell that you're like an introverted person,
Mm-hmm.
and I am a very extroverted person, but I didn't reach for that help. You would think that an extroverted person would be free to like speak their mind or like what's on their head, like what's going on, or, like their opinion about something.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, you know, I don't want to do this because I know I'm not going to get what
Well, I
I
think
know I'm not going to get the assistance. And that I think that kind of like forced me to like, I guess, mature very quickly, like at a young age, where it's just like, okay, you got to handle this. You got to be, yeah, like it's kind of like the same problem. It's just different reactions.
Well, it's
You know what I'm
also
saying?
almost in reverse.
Well, and
Yeah.
there's a big difference between socially extroverted and emotionally extroverted. Those
That's
are
fair.
two totally different constructs. You can be
Oh, okay.
extremely extroverted and still be totally emotionally repressed.
Yeah.
Huh. I never thought about it that way.
Well, and I don't know. Chris and I are very, I don't know. We kind of refound each other, and then we became each other's like emotional processing partner.
Mhm.
We were like, this is my disability buddy for this thing
Yep.
because I know I can trust you implicitly to help me process literally anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave me a freedom to unload and process and then take what I was learning back into the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for you, it can be the same. You take a little bit longer to process things, I feel like.
Depends.
I think I process things more out loud.
Right.
Like I'm very verbal and like,
Yeah, I'm just doing that in my head though,
yeah,
and weighing every.
I have to say it out loud because I'm
And-
like, I need it to be in reality.
Right. No, I get that, and it's
Yeah.
easier to process verbally for me too.
Mhm.
I don't do it very often. Like,
Right.
because every time I try, it's just there's not like much. Like Jen is not an out loud type person when it comes to like feeling and. So like I'll be like, so I'm feeling this way about things, and she's like, uh-huh.
That's
Like,
nice.
all right.
Yeah.
But so I do most of it internally now.
Yeah.
But yeah. The
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna touch on what you were saying. It's like I also try to process things internally as well.
Yeah.
Because like I feel like whenever I try to communicate that aspect to somebody, like, hey, I'm upset. Oh, you don't understand like the way that I explain that I'm upset. Oh, that's weird. Now I'm pissed off because you don't understand.
Yep.
It's like I almost want to like. So when I'm
But-
angry, I don't want to exert that anger.
Yeah.
So instead of being angry, I just have a moment I'll go like an hour or 2 hours without saying a single word
So
because like that's how much anger builds up with the things that I have to say. And it's like in my head in that moment, I'm just like, you know what? If I explain this a different way, I would actually be understood. You know, like somebody might like the person that I'm expressing these emotions to would, you know, actually might understand it, but in my head, I'm just like, no, because of anything that I say, it's gonna be anger or it's gonna be like a dickhead
so
response.
it's
because I'm
interesting
angry.
because what that is, it's not actually anger, right? It's not anger. It's frustration at not being able to make yourself understood.
Well, anger is a surface level emotion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
There's more to anger. Nobody's
Always.
just angry.
right. So, but it's interesting because like I don't know, I think it comes down to that like trust level piece. And again, like I don't know, maybe my brain is just super simple when it comes to these like formative lessons for me. But when I learned that I didn't have to be quiet, I was like, cool, I'm never shutting up ever again.
Oh no, yeah.
And then I just never did. And it drives my husband crazy because he's a quiet processor as well. And I'm like, please talk to me, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. And he's like, word. And I'm like, that's not enough.
Well, it's
Yeah,
it's,
no.
it's unbalanced. It's like unfair because we get together, we just dump everything.
Oh my
out.
God, constantly.
But we've made like a safe space, like you were
Yeah.
saying. It's like we built this area where we are allowed to do that,
Right.
and we needed it, like
Yeah. But
somewhere.
that's the thing. Like, not every person is going to meet every need in your life.
Right.
So we find people who meet different needs throughout our life and we call them friends, right? Or loved ones or family members or spouses. And we're meeting different needs within that. And we meet different needs for different people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have people who disappear for months and then come back and they're like, I did a really stupid thing and I need to talk about it. I'm like, okay. But it's about spreading your trust, basically. Like being able to divvy it out in different ways. But if you've been reared knowing that you can't trust people with these really vulnerable pieces of you. You're repressing them.
Mm.
And even in your interactions, it feels empty.
Yeah, and then like it gets to like another thing where it's not more so like the person you're talking to. You kind of just get angry with yourself
Mm-hmm.
because like I know like for me, a man especially, like whenever I hear myself talking like about something that's like messing with me, I'm just like, dude, just go out and fix it. With like yap in your mouth. And that's just me talking to myself
Yeah.
because of like the concrete branding of like you have to know what like how to fix your problem by yourself. Like you can't bring that problem or issue to somebody else.
Yeah.
And when you talk to them about it, it's like, well, like in my head, all I hear is, "Oh, what are you doing? What's wrong with you?" Like, and then like you get to that point where you just get so frustrated and angry, like about so many different things with what you're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why even talk at this point? Like you kind of like physically lose your voice when you kind of like go into like I've literally gone through like an experience to where it's happened multiple times where I'll try to like, I'll actively know like, hey, you're angry. Anything you say out of your mouth is going to be either rude, with an attitude, or you're going to be yelling. And I can assess that, right? But the problem is I'm so frustrated and built up about what I'm angry and frustrated with and the problem that I have. I'm not assessing and changing the outcome of what I have to say when I'm angry. So like I could be talking to Chris about like, oh, you spilt water on me that made me upset because I'm wearing new shoes.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's oh fuck you, Chris. Why the fuck would you do that? Like, why did you do that to me? You spilled this on my shoes. You're stupid. Like, but that's not really what I'm trying to say. You know,
Right.
it's like Chris. I really like these shoes, man. It hurt my feelings. You spilled water on. You know,
Yeah.
like it's. But I'm so angry at the fact that I'm trying to control the anger, and I don't understand why I'm talking about this because I don't see it like as like a problem that other people would like want to address or care about.
Right.
So I see it as like, oh, you're just wasting somebody's time, dude. Like you're babbling on about nothing. It's about something that nobody cares about.
It's
Like yeah,
almost
maybe.
like
Well, that
it's so interesting because it's almost like people who are socialized men, especially in the United States, are handed a list of acceptable things to display emotion about,
Mm-hmm.
and an unacceptable thing where you're like, it's only anger. Anger is the only response that is ever going to be acceptable. Oh, it's
well, I
just
think that goes back to that validation piece. Like if the only validation for your emotion that you receive is, oh, you're angry.
Mhm.
That's the only validation that you're going to be able to give yourself internally.
I guess okay.
That's true.
So I guess Randy, what my question is, if it's validation that you seek, how are you supposed to ask for that when you don't know that's what you need?
Well, that's exactly the thing. When somebody's expressing these emotions, when somebody's trying to talk about these things, that's where the validation piece comes in. You don't know that you're seeking validation, especially in formative years. Like as a child, the child's not going to know that what they're seeking is validation. It's our job as mentors to be able to express that and give these kids validation,
Yeah.
so that they can then seek that validation internally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do with my kids. Like, try to model the behaviors,
Yeah.
let them have feelings,
Mhm.
and let them feel their feelings
Right.
instead of correcting it right away. You know,
Yeah.
like, oh, you're feeling this. No,
Now that's a silly problem.
that's a
Like,
bad feeling. You're not allowed to have the bad feeling.
right.
Like, that's, I think, the hardest thing Sophie gets is she'll be upset. And I'm like, I know. You're upset.
Yeah.
You're allowed to be upset.
Yeah.
She's like, but I want to be upset. It's like,
Yeah.
but you are.
You're like, well, and like we say on the podcast, the only way through it is through it,
Yeah.
right? Like, and that's what you're teaching your kids, and that's what we're there to be the safety net for our kids
Mhm.
while they go through it,
Yeah.
and allow them to go through it, knowing that someone's going to be there underneath in case it all goes to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, as an adult, really, the only thing that we can do is start unlearning those practices. And I think we have all had to go through unlearning, and as we get older, we
I'm currently unlearning.
yeah
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just such a like a complex
oh,
concept
very.
that like I just don't like I lit again like the gears are turning in my head where like there's so many things and I'm just like what do I say?
Yeah.
Like words, please. Like and it's just like I guess I'm just a little bit confused honestly
It's
because
fair.
like if so like what you were saying, Randy, you know, if we don't know that we seek that validation. So then when we don't know that we want that validation, then our feelings are expressed through anger. But then how do we take that step into thinking like okay, instead of anger, let me just tell you what's wrong. I guess like how does somebody who's been like it's been branded into your head that like, oh, the only acceptable response is anger or beating somebody up to
Yeah.
like, you know, we can actually have a civilized conversation about this instead. Like natural human beings. Like instead of fist fighting each
Yeah.
other over who gets the last bowl of Cookie Crush. You know what I mean? Like
So-
like
I want to get into this because I think this could make a really good second half.
Okay.
If we go into the like how to deconstruct, how to recognize, how to pause, and how to like move forward and like relearn all these things.
Yeah.
But we are almost at an hour in. So we got to take a break. And then we'll come back, and I think that's a really good place to start.
Sounds
'Cause
good to me.
There's a lot to be said in there too, I think.
If everyone's still good.
Yeah.
Yeti, how are you on time? Do we have you for more time after this?
yeah, no, you can have I'm on it. I'm invested. Like I'm
Sweet.
genuinely
Sweet.
invested.
Perfect.
Like I have
Awesome.
like my brain is just like the gears are turning. I got questions. I got confusion. I got things. You know. Still,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're
I'll
reaching out.
definitely-
Like, this
100%.
is
Yeah.
awesome.
Well,
No,
like-
it's interesting because you know it's like throughout. Like so, for example, before you know I let you all go, you know so like you said, you guys have like a pretty small school. I would say like for me, I went to a high school where there was 13,000 people at my high school.
yes.
Yeah, and like when you would talk to a guidance counselor, it was like, oh, let's talk about your grades and how to fix them. Like,
Yeah.
oh no, like instead of like, you know what's going on with you? How's your day? How are you doing? And it's like I think it creates like a certain impact where like certain mentors just like drill it into your brain that like, okay, here's your problem, here's how to fix it, instead of let's talk about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's just like makes me ponder a lot of things because it's just like very confusing and
Right.
complex.
Well, and it's disappointing to like grow up and be like, wow, everyone failed me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think we'll get into the relearning and unlearning after the break. Yeti, do you know what they need to do to go on break?
No, I don't know what they need to know. I'm sorry. I only have the intro memorized. I'm sorry.
Well, step 1, hydrate or dihydrate.
Oh,
Water.
okay. Very good idea because my mouth is very dry.
There you go. Randy, what else?
Take your meds.
Yep.
Good job. Have a snack because you
are a snack.
Oh, snap.
Mhm.
Yeah. Find some sunlight or something cozy.
Yep. Do something nice for yourself.
I want to tell you to touch grass, but it's not that sentiment. It's a go find a nature.
Yeah.
Go look at a painting. I don't know. Do a peaceful self-care.
Do
Yes.
anything but what you're doing right now.
And take a break if you're in the middle of something that you need to take a
Exactly.
break from.
Facts.
Exactly.
And be kind to yourself. And we'll be right back.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, hi. Do you like Fantastic Pains? Would you like to see more of the Fantastic Pains podcasting crew? If so, you should join our Patreon. The Patreon, as we like to call it, is the new home of our behind-the-scenes content, full uncut recording sessions, our short-form videos such as TikToks and YouTube Shorts, and our past live streams. You can also find some Patreon exclusive content such as our new music reviews, lost episodes, and is the new home of our Mini Voices series, all of which can be found in our higher tier dubbed The Only Pains. The Patreon is the best way to support the podcast, so whether you want to see more of us or just want to help us grow, feel free to sign up following the link in the description below, and hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of the show.
Welcome back. How was your break? Ours was pretty good.
Did you do the things?
Hopefully, some of
We
them.
hope.
One of
You-
them.
You deserve to do the things.
Yeah.
You're important and stuff. So there.
So, real quick aside. Remember last week when we yelled at me to get my meds
Yeah.
and pointed?
Oh my God, did it work?
It worked.
Oh, that's amazing.
It literally. We were both pointing right at where my
we were
meds
like,
were
just take.
on the desk. It was fantastic.
So if you are Chris in the future and you also still need to take your meds,
It's on that side.
take your
If you
meds.
want to point the right way, it's right there.
Right there.
Right there.
Point.
Just take them.
Right there.
Yeah.
Get it. Get it.
All right.
All right. So for this half, we're really excited actually. This will be good. We're going to be talking about unlearning and relearning. So breaking some of those like social stigmas and the roles that you're forced into
Mm-hmm.
via socialization, and relearning how to feel your feelings appropriately and how to like respond to them without narrative and judgment,
Mm-hmm.
which will be really cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. So Yeti, you said you had lots of questions. I want to hear some of these questions.
Okay. So briefly before we had left, Randy had, well, what we discussed previously, Randy had touched on the fact that we don't really come to the understanding that we need validation rather than just a solution to our problem.
Right.
Like the solution to our problem is that validation.
Mhm.
But when you're so misconstrued with the anger that builds up and not being able to be understood or like heard, I
Mhm.
guess,
Yeah.
how do you then come to the conclusion that like, hey, maybe if I just explained what's wrong with me better, then I would be understood and given that validation, or like maybe, you know, I wouldn't be so angry if I felt understood. But you're so like, what's the word I'm looking for? Over, like, I guess you're like overwhelmed, or like you're
Yeah.
completely captivated by the anger and the frustration you're feeling by not feeling that you're being heard or
Yeah.
understood. It's like, where do you what would be like a good first step into like thinking like, okay, let me just, instead of being angry, let me assess that I'm angry, calm down for a second, and then readdress how much like what my problem is, or like readdress that I might need that validation instead of a solution to my problem.
So I know for you and I, Randy, like the big one was understanding how we both best communicate. And we found that you communicate better through writing.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it was a matter of like, he would be angry and just like you were saying, not want to say anything to me. Like he would shut me out basically because he was afraid if he said something, it would come out in anger. Right. So
Yeah.
usually what I got was like, why are you ignoring me? Why are you not talking to me? And it was like, because I don't want to say something stupid because I'm mad.
Smart.
Then we kind of came to the conclusion that, why are you laughing?
It's just-
Because I'm on it.
Yep.
Okay. Came to the conclusion that you best communicate through writing, and you kind of always have. Like when
Yeah.
you write papers, it's beautiful. When you write emails, it's beautiful. You are really articulate in writing.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes, and I had to kind of find the life hack here, I would text you and be like, what's going on? Or you would text me after you had had some time to kind of sort out what was going on. And then I could get it in a text, read it, consider it, and then we could come back together.
Yeah.
So communication style is a really big one. But I think it's also understanding like how you process information,
Yeah.
because you've got to do what you've got to do to process it before you can even come to the conclusion that your anger has something underneath. So
Yeah.
unless you've been like practicing that skill for a long time and you can be like, I'm really angry. Wow, I wonder what's under that. It is hard to do in the moment.
Well, and I think that a lot of that comes externally. Like when it's hard to recognize that internally all the time.
Yeah.
But like if we take our kids for an example, like being able to see through that anger,
Yeah.
like go Q-tip, quit taking it
Yes.
personally. Being able to see, okay, there's anger here, but that's the surface level. What's beyond the anger? I think that's that's big with our kids at the very least, but
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I did
Right.
it the other day when we had that meltdown with the doctor.
Oh yeah.
I took that whole day to process everything
Right.
that I was feeling, because I was upset, I was depressed,
Mhm.
I was every color of upset, you could say.
Right. Yeah.
and I had to process my way through all that, and I did it pretty well, considering.
But you just have to take the time to actually do the processing.
Yeah.
And that can be hard when you want to like distract.
Oh yeah.
So
oh,
when
yeah.
you come up against an emotion that you're like, this is gross and I don't like feeling it, I'm gonna opt out. I'm gonna do something else. And that's when it's like, are you putting it away or are you processing?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of like self-analyzation, and I think the most beneficial analyzation comes at points of calm, when you can start practicing skills in like a controlled setting, a controlled
Yeah.
way, before you start implementing them into heated, like brain flippy on situations.
That's the same as any skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be able to practice it in low stakes settings.
Low stakes, that's a good way to put it. Sorry. Brain's
Yeah.
like, no brain.
Like, I noticed that when I'm ever having like a discussion or a dispute with somebody.
Yeah.
When you're angry, you just are thinking of like, okay, what am I gonna say that's gonna either make them stop talking or like make them upset? Instead of, what can I say to them, help them understand what I'm thinking or like what I'm going through. So that way they have that like aha moment,
Yeah.
where it's like, it's because, like, for example, whenever I get extremely frustrated to the point where like I feel there's like no return,
Yeah.
like I just go completely inaudible. Like I just don't have like, at least not yet, the ability to where like it's at that certain point where it's like someone literally took the cords from my body and just threw them out the window,
Yeah.
and we're just like, oh, now express yourself.
Yeah.
But then you start freaking out and like you start getting overwhelmed, and then you get anxious, then you get stressed out because you're anxious, and then you're anxious because you can't explain yourself or because you're angry, and then you
Yeah.
get angry because you can't explain yourself. It's like,
Mhm.
how do you like address to somebody that you need that time without, I guess, exploding on them? It's like, hey, I need a moment, and instead for me it's like, fuck off, stop talking. Like, like it's
I've
like,
seen you
how do
get
I
there
like,
one time before.
yeah,
Just shut
yeah,
down because it was just too much was going on.
yeah,
I get
no,
that.
it get like, it's to the point where it's like, how do I just like say, hey Chris, I love you, man, but just give me a second to breathe, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, that was easy for me to say because I'm not, overwhelmed.
Right.
Like
Right.
when I get to that moment and we're like in a heated dispute, it's like, someone literally glued my lips together, and I
Yeah.
cannot get a word out.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know how to take like a step from there
I'm
to
gonna
addressing the fact that I need a moment.
look to Randy on this one, because you kind of function the same way, or did, prior to kind of opening up that conversation about emotion as a whole.
Well, it comes back to that practicing the skills in lower stakes situations.
Yeah.
You have to get to the point where you can recognize when you're in that dysregulated place and be able to express that without it coming out as something destructive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, like, what's an example of a low stakes way to practice that?
Recognizing some of the lower stakes emotions, like being able to say, going into a conversation, like, hey, I'm a little pissed off about this, or even in the more positive emotions, like coming into something, I'm really excited about this.
Mhm.
Right.
Being
Pointing
able
at
to
when, like-
recognize the emotions and being able to express how those emotions are impacting what's being externalized.
Yeah. Well, and I think within like spousal relationships, we created rules,
Mhm.
and like these are the rules of combat. These are the code of engagement here. And so we established like a safe place where we can talk, right? We established the rules of the conversation, and we created almost a script within it so that there was always like a bailout opportunity for one or both of us. So that if we were finding ourselves really overwhelmed within the conversation and we weren't going to be able to continue abiding by the rules of engagement, we were able to be like, okay, I need to put a pause on this conversation and come back to it when I feel a little less dysregulated right now. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not in a place where I can continue this conversation. But I think finding low stakes opportunities, you could even do it with like teeny tiny itty bitty things just to practice.
Oh yeah. Like,
Okay, you
point out
ate
when you're
the
annoyed.
last,
Yeah.
you ate the last Pop-Tart, and I was really hoping to have that tonight, and I'm a little bit bummed that happened.
it's that thing that we do all the time now where it's like
Yeah.
when we have like a pain or something, we state
Right.
it.
Yes.
So it's like acknowledging it. You got to acknowledge that you're feeling
Right.
a way.
Right. Like, I call it get it out of you.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm like, I can't keep it inside of me, because then it turns into the pressure that builds and builds and builds and builds and turns
Mhm.
into anger and frustration and destructive energy. And so that's what I mean when I say I never shut up.
Exactly.
As soon as I realized I could communicate where I was at in the world, I literally never shut up. My poor in-laws had to deal with me being the one who was shut down or angry or taking people's heads off or whatever, and they couldn't ever pinpoint like what was going on, what was setting me off.
Right.
And so now I've learned through those conversations and those experiences of having a safe landing with them, that I could just be like, I am in a lot of pain. And then suddenly I wasn't angry about it.
Right.
I could just say it. And that was like, people would be like, cool, I now know where you stand in the universe. So
No
there were
joke.
no surprises anymore. Yeah. I don't know. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, and it's an interesting way to think about it and like take it and use it to
Yeah.
apply it. I guess previously, before you get into those
Mm-hmm.
high use your brain situations.
Right.
Well, and I think that it's also helpful to be able to practice it externally too. Not just saying, like, I'm coming into this conversation feeling this way, but trying to understand when somebody else is dysregulated, where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Kind of helping externally to be that regulating force.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is a really good one.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess another question I would have on that subject would be, so obviously to touch base again on what we were speaking about previously, like how Chris would like reach out for that like assistance, but he wouldn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get and come to a point where you can tell those people that just don't get it to like, like, okay, I need a minute before I start screaming and ripping your head off. Okay, yeah, I know you're not going to help me, so I'm going to help myself in this situation.
Yeah.
And I'm going, but like sometimes like I feel like you can't do that with people who don't get it, because like it's like it could be like your own family members, for instance, that just like don't understand, like, oh, what's a mental issue? I don't have those.
Right.
When they, I mean, everybody's got something in there, like
Yeah.
it just sticks them off, but they don't notice it or like address it or like, so like how would you handle that situation? Like what?
I think for me at least, it comes down to setting and maintaining strong boundaries.
Yeah.
To be able to
Okay.
say, I need to step away for a minute, and whether they like it or not,
You're going to step away for a minute.
Yeah. They're going to respect that boundary.
Yeah.
And it's for their own good. But I think that's what it really comes down to for me, at least.
Yeah. No, I think that's where I started,
Yeah.
because I would excuse myself from situations that would upset me. It's like, I
Right.
don't need to be upset right now.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the other part, is like understanding where to spend your energy
Mm-hmm.
and where not to spend your energy, because you could spend years spinning your wheels trying to get people who can't understand or won't understand to understand, and they can't and they won't, or they can't and they won't, and they can't and they won't, and then we are frustrated and misunderstood, and it becomes this like resentful situation. So I think understanding what information goes where
Mhm.
in a way. So, I mean, you can still be honest with them, but usually in those situations, they get like a preamble. It's like
Yeah.
a very shortened, condensed summary of information
Mhm.
with the important, like, I feel part in there. And then for me, at least, because people's response to me never shutting up is usually like, oh, I'm sorry. Are you okay? Is there anything I can do? And usually it's like, no, it's fine. Like, I'm good.
Mhm.
It just sucks.
Yeah.
And then we let it just suck. But I don't know.
That's a very interesting way to think about that.
I don't know. Like, and I tell this to people all the time, being chronically ill gave us a different lens as far as energy expenditure,
Oh yeah.
because we had to decide what was worth those spoons. And if we were dedicating spoons to the wrong things, we were out of energy and out of emotional energy and unhappy because we weren't being fulfilled. And
anger takes a lot of
anger
energy.
takes so much energy. God dang. So it was a lot of like, it's also, I think, a practice in empathy.
Yeah.
Right? Like understanding where that person is coming from as well.
Mhm.
And being like, you can't understand because your circumstances are different from mine. Because the thing that we've learned is that it's not that people don't want to understand necessarily, but if they haven't been through what you've been through or something close, they can't, because they cannot conceptualize it. It's not in their schema. It's not in their blueprint of the world around them. It's a completely foreign idea that holds an unknown amount of weight.
Mhm.
And how are you supposed to tell them the correct amount of weight and make them understand?
Well, it's like trying to have someone understand like a mental illness
yeah,
without ever having one.
right.
Like,
Oh, just be happy. Go out in the sunlight more.
yeah, I'm bipolar.
You should drink more tea.
Just calm down. Oh, okay.
Have you thought about maybe that you're being unreasonable?
Yes, I have all the time. I hate it.
You're like, no, that's just how my brain works. God. Like, oh, you're depressed. Maybe you should stop taking all those medications.
Oh, that's what'll fix me. Yeah. That one. Ugh.
Try CBD oil.
Apply to your eyeballs.
Apply directly to the forehead.
Mhm.
Yeah. Essential oils will fix everything. Sorry, I don't know why it has that voice, but it definitely does.
It does now, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, understanding like other people's capability to meet you where you're at.
Yeah.
And sometimes their incapability to meet you where you're at.
100%.
And then it's not like a
Yeah.
choice they're making.
Right.
They just
They
can't.
can't.
Yeah.
And so we have to be patient with the can't. We
I
can't
know
be
for a
like,
while-
I'm going to teach a dog to sing in Italian.
I had a lot of resentment for people who didn't understand how I felt
Yes.
all the time. Because I would spend all this time trying to help them and understanding where they're at, but
Right.
it was never like reciprocated.
Yep.
Because they just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And it, oh man, there was a lot of anger attached to that.
Yeah. Like realizing that all of the empathy you put out into the world is not going to be returned to you
Mhm.
and may never be returned to you.
Yeah.
And that is defeating and sad.
Yeah. No, I've been trying to teach Sophie that. Like, she's had that problem her whole life. She'll invest all her time into a person,
Right.
and they won't even acknowledge her.
Mhm.
And it hurts. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to happen, though.
Or you wind up being used
Yeah.
a lot. And that's not a good place to be in either.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was somber.
Hey, sometimes people just suck.
They
Yeah.
do, and that's okay. We just let them suck.
And there's a lesson to be learned there. Like,
Yeah.
where are you allowing your resources to be taken?
Yes. That's a good way to put it too, because like if everyone's taking a bite out of you,
Yeah.
why are you allowing that?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a little bit of armor in different ways, and trying to understand that not everybody is capable of understanding the things that we wish they could.
Yeah. Some of it for me, too, was having the self-worth to, like, stand up for myself in situations.
Yeah,
You know, like, I didn't
That's a
think I was
big
worth
one.
it for a long time
that's a really hard one.
until more recently, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's easier for me to be like, oh, no, I need boundaries. Like, I can't let people just walk all over me and use me.
Right. Well, and that's that, like, when you turn your self-protection, like self-protective measures to work for you
Yeah.
instead of in like a fearful way. You're going like, these are the things I'm defending against,
Mm-hmm.
and it's purposeful. And like you were saying, Randy, with having really clear and immovable boundaries. Like, if those are your boundaries, those are your boundaries, and no one gets to tell you that your boundaries are wrong. That's not how that works.
You're doing it wrong.
You're like, we're not in a property dispute. Go
You've locked
sit
me
down.
out of your life, and I don't approve.
I don't know.
Wrong.
That's a shame. I'm so sorry you feel that way.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go do me stuff now. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Yeti?
I think that it's a really good way of viewing it, as opposed to like, just ignoring the fact that there is a way like to do it
Yeah.
instead of thinking like, oh, there's no out for me. There's no solution. I'm just
Right.
gonna have to suck it up, ball it up, put it into a balloon until it bursts and I scream at somebody.
Mhm.
You could take those, it's a process. Every
Yeah.
day you take a step. Every day you take like a step further, or you need a second, or like you're able to, like, for example, Randy expresses through writing. Maybe I can just, take an extra step, and it's like trying to get out at least one or two words when I get in
Right.
those like inaudible moments, and like taking those steps to then, form a communicational rather than like anger and debate type of situation.
Oh, sorry. I wrote it down because I was like, I want to remember this. We've also done in the past, like, creating a code word.
Yeah.
So that if you can't talk to me, because we had these discussions in times of more calm where it was lower stakes, right? We would sit down and be like, okay, so I've noticed that when we are in an intense argument, you tend to shut down. How can we prevent that? What causes the shutdown? And how can I avoid triggering you into shutting down, but still allowing you to talk to me? And so for us, it was like creating a code word, so that he wouldn't have to say very much. It would have to do like one or two words, just be like, and we're done now.
Yeah.
Okay. Walk away from the situation for a little while, and we'll reapproach it later.
Take a lap, go, touch some grass,
Right.
and regroup with a calmer state of mind.
Yeah.
That's something that I've tried before in the past, and I think it does help because, like, for lack of a better example, when you play video games and you're stressed out and you got all your teammates yelling at you, you kind of get like, oh, fuck this, I'm done. Okay, we can die and like not do it. Where it's like, hold on, let me just calm down, relax, play some music, let's all have some fun, and then we end up doing it just fine.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a similar concept.
Yeah. Well, and you're really good at that too. Like we've been in raids where people have started getting heated, and you're able to like calm it down with just the like perfect like timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll say just one thing at the perfect time, and everyone will laugh, and then you move forward.
Breaking
we'll go back
the
to loving.
tension.
Yeah, we'll all go back to loving each other, and then
Yeah.
we'll get it done, and then
Nice.
we'll, yes.
Yeah, break the tension. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, it takes a lot of purposeful, intentional communication,
Mm-hmm.
like outside of moments of stress. Because if you're like, this is where I'm feeling misunderstood, or this is where I don't have a need met, we need to talk about that. Like, can I talk to you about a thing because I'm feeling away? And even though, like, I know I can't process a whole lot with you, like when I need to like go in my speech because it overwhelms him and it makes him crazy when I just talk at him, I can walk into the room and be like, I have had a day and I need an affection now, please. And I will get my hug, and then I will do my thing. Like, but being intentional about like, I need a need met.
Yeah.
I have a need and I need it met. And can we do that for me?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I do that with Jen all the time.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
come
very.
cuddle me because I'm sad.
She'll come home.
I'm just understanding, like, nobody's a mind reader.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Like she'll come home, she'll have on her brain
Mhm.
to talk to friends and write, and then play games. Like at no point does it occur to her that like she's totally ignored my presence when she walks into the room. So I sometimes I have to go, can I have a hug? And she goes, oh yeah. I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Right.
It's just funny because, like, you know,
Well,
she's in another wavelength,
yes.
especially when she gets off work.
Yeah. Well, and the more you communicate, the more you realize that, like, when people slight us or we feel slighted by people, usually it's not their intent at all. And we tend to put a lot of intention into other people's behaviors and make it about us. And we forget that, like, they are living just as complex lives as we are. And usually if something's going on, like, at least with our kids, this is the big one. And Randy mentioned it earlier. Q-tip is my favorite term in education. Quit taking it personally.
Yep.
Because when adults and kids get into it, the adults get, like, really, blah, 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 and I'm like, you are arguing with a child. Also, did you know that kid's grandma passed yesterday? Like, it's not about you, bro.
Yeah.
They really like to make
Sit
it about
down.
themselves, though.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I'm
They're
like,
so good at it.
no,
Like,
you don't need the last word. Be quiet.
anytime you talk about something, there's always
Oh.
one adult that gets involved that doesn't understand.
Yeah,
It's not
I'm
about
like,
them.
Could you shush your face, please? Like, yeah. Well, that kid called me a bad word. And I'm like, okay.
And
Are you going to die? No. Okay. Shush.
Yeah.
Just shush. It's not about you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that would be very beneficial to a lot of people.
Yeah. It's the
Well,
you're not.
It's just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
I was just gonna say that it would be very beneficial to a lot of people, but again, it's having that emotional intelligence to address the fact that you're not angry, you're upset or frustrated about something else, but you're expressing it through anger.
Right.
And I feel like everyone says, the first step is to addressing the problem,
Yeah.
and then, or not the problem, but the issue, and then taking the steps to better solve or talk about that issue.
Well, sometimes the first step is, so you've recognized that there's an issue, which, like, you talk about your emotional intelligence. Oh, as they're knocking.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Bummer.
But I think you have a fairly high emotional intelligence to be asking all the questions that you're already asking.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
most people don't ask.
Well, that's good. That's reassuring. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no. And I mean, I always figured you did too, because I remember there was a time you were dealing with a loss and you were worried that you weren't responding appropriately. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I was like, there's no right or wrong in processing.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah, like, you're asking questions that most people don't consider.
Right.
So I think it's there. I think it's just a matter of, like, exploring it and developing it. And the thing I was going to say is that sometimes the first step is acting in retrospect.
Yeah.
So you're not going to go from blowing up to not blowing up overnight. But sometimes it's blow up, immediately recognize what happened, or recognize what happened in general,
Mm-hmm.
and then coming back to it and being like, look,
Yeah.
I'm sorry I blew up. That was uncalled for. This is what I'm dealing with. It's not an excuse, but an explanation. And I'm apologizing for what went down. This is how I'm really feeling, and I'm struggling with being regulated
I
about
do
it.
that all the time.
Yeah.
Especially with the kids. Because they can take you from 0 to 100 real quick.
Right.
So there's a lot of snap reactions, and that you're like, oh, that was
Right.
what
You're
was
like,
that?
oh, that was not called for.
Right. I'm gonna fix this.
Or like when I take my husband's head off on accident, and then I'm like, oh, that was mean. We should not have done that.
Yeah, no, bad idea.
Ooh, mistake was made. So, I mean, sometimes it's recognizing it in retrospect, because that's where you start to apply it. That's where we started with, like, self-talk,
Yeah.
was recognizing it and going, ooh, that was not good.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Calling it out for each other too
Yeah.
was a big one. I think
Right.
it helped.
Yeah.
So maybe you could figure out something like that with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
You know, like start a communicating line. Have her be like,
Yeah.
hey. And you'd be like, what?
You're doing the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Either that, or like when I'm talking to my family members, or like somebody who just doesn't understand,
Yeah.
have the the self-confidence to be like, you know what? I need a minute. Leave me alone.
Yeah,
Right.
no.
I need a moment. Give me a minute.
It's funny how it works. Like family can, again, like take us from 0 to 100 real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard when you're like, especially if there's any childhood wounds there, where you're like, that felt like a thing that I remember, and now I'm 5 again. And here's my 5-year-old temper tantrum reaction.
Those are my favorite. When
They
you
can
relive
push
trauma
you
that you
out.
forgot
Yeah.
you had.
And then they're like, see, you're crazy, and we always knew it. And you're like, I'm gonna lose it again.
Yep.
So, I mean, emotional intelligence isn't always like, I know what to do and when to do it. A lot of the time, it's like, I am able to self-analyze my own behavior and my own thinking.
Yep.
But then also don't get stuck in the trap of not feeling your emotions, but
Oh,
instead
yeah.
intellectualizing them.
Yeah.
'Cause
That's what you're always
Yeah.
worried about.
I'm bad at that.
She's
Like,
thinking her feelings away.
Yeah. But now I've realized I can feel it, and then I can analyze it.
Yeah.
Feel first, analyze later. Stop that.
What?
It happened. I got a zappy feeling.
Sorry. It hurts.
Oh,
I need to ice my face later.
tooth chunk.
Mm-hmm.
No, actually, just look. I got this for you.
I know. I use it. It's just super messy right now.
I put it on my face because I'm a monster.
Sponsored by Apothecana.
Not actually, but that would be cool. Apothecana, give us a call.
Reach out.
What are you thinking, husband?
I was just laughing.
He's like, you people are dumb.
Fact.
Crazy, not dumb.
Fair.
Crazy like a fox.
Hungry like a wolf?
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening anymore.
I'm honestly very lost.
It's fine. It happens.
It's just randomized sibling chatter.
Yep.
You're fading, though.
Oh, yeah. No.
So I
I'm
think
starting to melt.
it's time to call it. But this was super, super cool. And I'm really glad that you, A, gave us the topic, and B, were able to stay on and be on the show. And that, Randy, you were able to take part. You happened. Did you know
I
that?
took place.
You took
It took place.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think it was very beneficial and very, very good topic of discussion, most definitely.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, I always got questions or like different topics that are interesting to talk about. Like I know there's another topic of discussion that we can discuss and dive deep into and talk for hours on, but
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna save that for a different episode. Yeah.
Woo!
Woo!
He must have yelled because it got really quiet really fast on that end.
No, I very much did yell.
I love it.
I think I
Fantastic.
yelled too loud for my mic to handle it. So.
The mic was just like,
Nah.
no, we're gonna not do that.
Poor
Yes.
guy didn't even see it coming, let me tell you.
It just died.
Yeah.
Oops. But yeah, so really cool one. Super glad we were able to do it. Super glad you guys
Yeah.
were able to join us because that was awesome.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Looking forward to being in a different episode
Yeah.
featuring Yeti.
Yeah. He's back again from the woods.
From the woods.
From the woods.
From the backwoods. The backwoods? The backwoods.
It's like the back rooms, but different.
Yeah, it's more Yetier.
Back rooms.
It's got Yetis.
Woods.
Mm-hmm.
And trees. There are trees.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Wonderful.
My day is complete.
I
I
gonna
can
say,
sleep
we
well.
can end it now. That's perfect. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you got something out of this. I know all of us did.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really just fun, interesting conversation. I'm glad we could chat it through. That was awesome.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Check out the Patreon.
Yeah.
It's new and I'm excited. So, go. do
If you want full
stuff.
episodes, go there. If you want to watch shorts, go there.
Yep.
We even have a compilation of live streams and our mini voices series
Yes.
all ready to go.
Yeah.
Right there for you.
It's there. You asked for it. We delivered. I'm scared.
And in the future, there's going to be custom content we're making for Patreon. So
yes.
it's worth joining
Should
up.
be here pretty soon.
Mhm.
It'll be awesome. All right, lovely people. It has been a pleasure. Thanks again, everybody. And as always,
Bye.
yes, and as always, be kind to you, be kind to others, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
All right.
It's just, I was like, are you going to say bye?
He said
Yeah.
all right. That's good
Said
enough.
all right.
I'll critique his leaving.
All right.
I'm going to enjoy his leaving. That was weird
Love-
and gross, and I hated
Hate-
it.
Hate to see you go, but love to
see
watch you leave.
Exactly.
That was good.
That was really good. I'm very happy. I'm very,
Very much.
very tired now.
Yeah, now my brain is
Yeah.
nappy.
Nappy is a good way to put that.
Nappy.
Ready to stop
Words.
recording?
Words.
Words.
3, 2, 1.